Howdy, what's going on, everybody? This is a roaming prepper, and I thank you for joining me today. Today I have a topic that when I heard this particular individual make the comments he did, I gotta tell you, it was concerning, to say the least, to see this individual make the comments he did about the political future versus current country and possible conflict. I'll be right back, and let's talk a little more about that. Howdy, everyone. Thanks for coming back to join me. As always, I normally try to premiere these videos and I try to be in the chat. Sometimes that just doesn't happen. So if I miss my own premiere, which has happened frequently, feel free to leave questions in the comment section below the video. I'll be happy to talk to you about it and try and answer any questions. So I opened this particular video with a comment that a person I follow, who I think actually has a good handle on situations, made comments that I actually concern me. And I'm not one to fearmonger, right? I try and look at things, back away, and kind of see the global perspective. But as I've said before, as an engineer, when you have one point of information, you have a point. You just have that. If you have two, you can draw a line through it, and there you have a line of data. But when you have 3, 4, 5 pieces of data from different sources, all kind of telling you the same thing, that's when you start seeing what we would call the trend. And I'm sure to most of you that makes perfect sense, right? The more dots you have going in a certain direction, the more data points you have from different sources, the more likely you're seeing or witnessing a trend. So what exactly am I talking about with this particular person? So the person I'm referencing is a guy named Gordon Chang. Now he is one of these think tank PhD types. He specializes in Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific geopolitics. Specifically, he's known as a China expert. Now, based on his name, I don't know if he's actually part Chinese. He is an American, definitely a true believer in the Republic from what it sounds like. But what he said concerned the hell out of me. So if you remember, late last year or early this year, we had an Air Force general, an active duty Air Force general who is in charge of Mobility Air Command, MAC, make the statement to his own people in a released directive to his command chain saying, I expect we will be at war with China by 2025. That's not something a general will say lightly, right? Because saying things like that and turning out to be wrong could embarrass your career. So that was kind of serious. And if you look at my other video regarding the Secretary of the Army, they said we need to get our recruiting numbers up. We need to start reimposing very strict combative standards because we stand the distinct possibility of conflict with China. Not with Russia, with China. This Gordon Chang guy got on Fox News, and I've seen him in other channels. It just happened to be Fox where I saw him. And I believe he was on with Maria Bartiromo. And we're looking at, today is April 6th of 23. So within the last week. So if you're interested in looking back, go ahead and look in the last couple of weeks. Anyway, his comments were that he agrees with these two generals, or this general and the Secretary of the Army. He said, I do believe that China is resurgent. China fully intends to exploit the chaos from COVID to establish themselves as a world leader. He, on a side note, said, if I were Russia, I wouldn't trust China too much, which he may not be wrong there. If any of you have read Tom Clancy's Bear and Dragon, you'll know what he's talking about there. Russia should not turn their back completely on China. But he said, and this is, I think, what was most disturbing, he said, if it goes hot, he said, it will not only be an overseas war, it will be a war at home. And Maria Baratomo and the people interviewing him said, well, do you mean like we'll get cyber hacked or the power will go out? You know, most of us would think the same thing. They'll take out the grid or screw up the stock market. And he said, they'll do that. He said, they'll hack us. We'll try to hack them and we'll go back and forth, right? And basically we'll all break the internet together. But he said, if it goes kinetic overseas, it's going to go kinetic here first. And she looked at him and asked him, can you elaborate? And he said, yes. We have untold numbers lately of Chinese nationals trying to get into the country. Not Taiwanese, not Indian, not Russian, Chinese nationals, to where it's concerning to homeland. Not only that, a lot of them are being brought in, they're being processed, and then they're being released to see relatives or whatnot. And again, like most immigrants, I'm sure 90% of them, 95% are just people trying to get the hell away from China. And they have lots of reasons to. If you've listened to any of the escapees of China's regime or North Korea, they'll tell you the same thing. We're here because we wanted to get away from there. But you don't need that many. Even if it's just 1% who are operatives, he actually believes it will get kinetic here. And when I say here, I'm talking, he specifically mentioned in another article, Canada, the US, Europe. And not necessarily Chinese nationals. It could be sympathizers, it could be mercenaries, it could be some other affiliate. If you look back at Sum of All Fears from Tom Clancy back in the 90s, and you look at Sicario, the movie that came out, within the last 8 years, both of them also allude to third-party entities, enemies of the state. Now, in those cases, it was militant terrorists from the Middle East, but a government could do the same thing, utilizing the existing cartel corridors in the southern border, and then from the south through the US into Canada to basically infiltrate North America and to cause chaos. And he said Mexico will not be immune because Mexico can provide agricultural support, manufacturing support, and oil and gas to the US. So it's conceivable they'll hit all three North American countries at once, basically to shut the US down and to take Canada out of the picture as well, or at least to screw us up enough to make us delayed in our involvement in any conflict. And he's absolutely convinced, based on these interviews, that if it gets kinetic, if it goes hot, and it won't just be hacking, it won't just be taking out the grid, shutting down banks, screw up the stock market. There will be physical attacks here. He specifically mentioned burning of industry, poisoning of food and water supplies, and train derailments. Let those three sink in for a minute. I've been on my videos for the last month and a half, and I'm not the only one by any means, but I keep bringing up small wars. And I'm hoping to do a live stream with Prepper Now if his time will allow in a couple of weeks. And I'm going to be doing another one with Mind for Survival regarding potential attacks and how we can be ready for it in the coming weeks as well. Not to be warmongery, but this is completely conceivable. And if you look right now at the multitude of issues we're having, spy balloons, unknown objects being shot down by the Air National Guard and the Canadian Air Force, a lot of derailments. And normally, they derailments, it's like, oh, they spilled rocks or they spilled coal, which can be cleaned up. This is nasty stuff that's getting spilled. The pipeline hack that happened in 2021, you all remember that. A lot of things have been going on, and these all fall in the box of small wars. And again, when I did the video on small wars, these are small asymmetric hits that take an enemy off balance, or if not, take them completely offline. Remember, a war is not only in the battlefield, it's on the clock, right? If you can launch an attack against an island nation, say, and the island nation's big friend in North America has all their lights going out and people are getting blown up, The U.S. is going to turn inward to try and deal with the threat inside its borders, and it's not going to be looking at the threat overseas as quickly. It will, but not as quickly. Assets will be pulled away from an international struggle to quell whatever the hell's going on in our country. This concerns me, guys. And honestly, I'm not one, I hate, ringing the bell. I feel like a messed up version of Paul Revere, but let's think about this for a second, folks. We've had a bunch of derailments. We've had the spy balloons. We had they call them UFOs, unidentified things were shooting down all over the place. Finally, they stopped. But after they killed the balloon, they started shooting the shit out of all these little things flying around. We've had all these issues. Plants catching fire, food plants in particular. What the hell's going on? That concerns me, because all of these are the hallmarks of small wars. And again, if they look like accident, technically nobody's done anything wrong. It was just misfortune. But when you have someone like Gordon Chang saying, mentioning, if we get hit at home while something pops off overseas, this is what we're going to see. And he literally names poisoning of food, poisoning of water, contamination, rail derailments, burning of refineries, blowing up of bridges, etc., etc., etc. And you look at what's happening in our streets now, you should be concerned about that. You should be taking note of what's going on. And then ask yourself, and again, I'm going to go back to my normal routine. We can't control what China does or the US does or Canada does. We don't. Unless one of you is a hidden politician or some president is following me that I don't know about, we can't do anything about that. But what can you as an individual do? And again, this goes back to having redundancy, knowing you have water, you have potable water, you have utility water, sanitizing water. Do you have backup power? Do you have a jackery, a generator? Hell, even if all you can afford are those stupid solar lights you get at Big Lots, those little things that go like they're on a pencil and it's this ugly round thing and you stick them in the yard and they glow at night. Get those. They're $1, $2 a piece. Stick them out in your flower beds. Let them get charged up. If the power drops, if nothing else, you walk out into your own yard, pull up all your stupid solar lights and stick them around the house so you don't kill yourself on your dog in the kitchen. Have that redundancy. Make sure if you are someone who does pew things, that your pews are in good order. They are sighted in. You have munitions to go with said pew. You are competent to use the said pew. If you are not competent, go get competent. Go find someone who knows. Go to the range and ask somebody, I need better instruction. I'm not doing well with this firearm, and get proper instruction. Most shooting ranges, a range officer will sit with you and give you some pointers that may make a world of difference. If you have to travel, do you have contingencies? Do you have destinations? I've traveled a lot. I've mentioned it a lot. Do you have a contingency? If I'm going to Argentina, who are my local contacts? If I'm going across Texas, who are my local contacts? Where are my resources? Where are my friends? Who can I go to and say, hey, I need 12 hours in your house to fill up my water, organize my shit, and figure out where the hell I'm going next. And sometimes even having someone say, hey, get your butt over here, here's a coffee, fill up all your water while we still have power. That 2-hour stopover at a friend's house while you're trying to figure out how the hell to get home may make the difference between life and death, or harm and not harm. We don't know what's going on, but now's an excellent time to start running those war games through your head. Okay? Now, I've mentioned before defensive prepping. That's a concept I came up with by putting together Dr. Michael Porter's concepts from Harvard for business and prepping. But now you have to get a little bit more preemptive. You have to start looking at those possible scenarios. If you're on the road, if you're at home, if you're at work, more than likely you're going to be at home or you're going to be at work. Guys like me have to worry about that third scenario because I travel all over the damn place. How do you get back? What is your plan? Have you talked it over with your loved ones, with your family, with your kids? Do you have extended family? I have adult children all over the place. Do we have a game plan? Have we reviewed it recently? That I can tell you no, because we've all been traveling around because they're like me. So now I got to hunt all my kids down and go, hey, if something happens, what do you think we should do? And let's hear what they have to say. I mean, I'm blessed with 3 amazingly smart and talented kids. What do you think? Where should we go? What should we do? Something happens there, you guys come here. Something happens here, we'll go there. Start looking at this, because this is a trend, my friends. The balloon, the derailments, the Air Force General, the Army Secretary. Now you have Gordon Chang, an analyst who I happen to hold in pretty high esteem. You have folks like Economic Ninja making comments about, hey, things are getting ugly. The dollar's going to get decapitated here shortly. You have a lot of people all over the place kind of laying out this trend line. It could turn. It could go the other way, and it's a big nothing. But if it's not, have you planned it out? And if you have no options and you have to stay at home because you're taking care of sick kids or taking care of an elder, or you just don't have the resources or the network to go anywhere, have you planned for that? Have you reinforced your hunker down? So, folks, a lot of things to think about. I did not expect him to say what he said. I did not expect the Army Secretary to say what she said. And the Air Force General was a complete surprise, because normally that kind of stuff doesn't come public, but his went public. So folks, start thinking about this. It may turn into nothing, right? We may get a change in leadership in one or both countries. A war may end. Someone may come out and be the white knight and make some deals, and everybody's happy and everyone calms the hell down. But when you have this many people, you have that trend line leading to a certain outcome. We're paying attention. The general public's worried about President Pottymouth and his hoochie mama and stoner President Junior's stoner head, meth head son, and we're worried about all this bullshit, as I said in my other video, and we're not watching these things. The collapse of the dollar, the devaluation of currency, the new alliances. These comments by rather intelligent people whose whole job is to study this stuff, and they're like, I'm not liking what I see. So folks, now's the time. Start thinking about it. Start assessing, where are you in these times, and what are your thoughts? How are you going to get through the ugly to persevere on the other side? So anyway, a lot to think about. There was a pretty heavy topic tonight, so I apologize for that, but I think it's something timely, because this is now 3 or 4 people that I follow that I think are pretty in the know, that have all said the same thing. And that kind of concerns me. So be ready, be smart, pay attention, and remember, you prep now calmly, so that when panics hit, you're not part of the panic, you're part of a solution, if nothing else, for you and yours. Guys, that'll be it for tonight. Keep an eye on this stuff, because that one really caught me off guard. God bless, Godspeed, and pay attention. And if you can help each other out and collaborate, do so. We'll see you later. Take care.